what if the perfect life you've built is actually a trap? A comfortable, stable existence that slowly suffocates the person you love right under your nose. It sounds like something out of a movie, but for so many people, it's a silent reality. And the scariest part? You might not see the cracks forming in the foundation until the whole thing comes crashing down. So let's just ask the question straight up. Can the very things we're told to build our lives around, stability, comfort, success, can those things become the perfect camouflage for a fatal flaw in a relationship? A vulnerability that lies dormant for years, just waiting to tear everything apart? Now, before we get into it, if you're interested in understanding the hidden psychology that really drives our connections with others, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. We explore these complex human dynamics every single week. These are the words of a 44-year-old man, we'll call him Daniel, spoken after his life completely imploded. His words are, well, they're a chilling reminder of how quickly the ground can just vanish from under your feet, especially when you think you're standing on solid rock. His story isn't just a story. It's a warning. To really understand how a seemingly solid partnership can just disintegrate, we have to look at a real story. So let's walk through the 17-year journey of Daniel and his wife, Anna. We're going to pinpoint the exact moments their life together began to crumble, not from some big external force, but from the inside out. I mean, look at this. They built their life brick by brick, just like we're all told to do. This wasn't some whirlwind romance destined to burn out. They met in their mid-20s, got married a couple of years later, and for the next 15 years, they did everything right. 2 kids, a home, a shared history filled with inside jokes and holiday traditions. When you look at this timeline, you see commitment. You see a fortress built to withstand any storm. On paper, they were the dream. He had a great job, provided a stable, comfortable income. They had a beautiful home in a quiet, safe suburb, the kind of place where kids can just be kids. Daniel described their love as comfortable and mature. And those are words we're all taught to admire, aren't they? They're supposed to be the goals of a long-term partnership. But he had absolutely no idea that his comfort was slowly becoming her cage. The collapse didn't start with an earthquake. It started with these tiny, almost unnoticeable tremors, things that were really easy to just explain away. First, it was the gym. What had been a healthy habit slowly morphed into a daily 2-hour obsession. The workout clothes got brighter, tighter, less about function and more about being seen. Then, the phone. It basically became a part of her hand, her eyes glued not to text from friends, but to the validation from strangers on fitness accounts, the likes, the comments, and finally, the mirror. She'd just stand there, picking apart her reflection, finding flaws he couldn't even see. He'd try to reassure her, tell her she was beautiful, only for her to snap back, "You're not even looking." Each one of these was just a tiny crack in the foundation, too small to worry about on its own. Or so he thought. But here's the thing. These weren't just random behaviors or some simple midlife crisis. They were symptoms. Symptoms of a deep, psychological earthquake that was silently splitting their marriage right down the middle, creating this chasm between them that was just getting wider every single day. This is where the story gets really complicated, because this image, it captures the divide perfectly. They were living in the same house, eating at the same table, sleeping in the same bed, but they were living in 2 completely different realities. For Daniel, their home was a fortress, stable, comfortable, a safe harbor. But for Anna, that same fortress had slowly become a prison. His stability felt like her being invisible. His comfort felt like a suffocating blanket of restlessness. And his steady, reliable support, to her, it had started to feel like she was trapped. So what caused this huge disconnect? Well, her entire frame of reference for self-worth was shifting. For 17 years, her value had been affirmed internally by her husband, her kids, her home. But now, the quiet, steady appreciation from the man who knew her best was being completely drowned out by the loud, addictive, and constant validation from total strangers. That fleeting dopamine rush from a like or a comment from someone she'd never met started to feel more real, more potent than the foundation of love she'd spent over a decade building. Eventually, she put this new worldview into 4 words that just cut Daniel to the core. A single sentence that explained everything that was happening inside her. Appreciation isn't attraction. Just think about the weight of that. The value of being a good wife, a devoted mother, a life partner. It had all become worthless currency to her. The only thing that mattered now was the intoxicating thrill of being desired by someone new, someone who didn't know her history. The end itself was chillingly calm. There was no screaming match, no big fight, One evening, she just sat him down on their sofa and told him, almost like she was reporting the weather, that she'd been having an affair with a younger man from the gym for the past 6 months. She wasn't crying. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was stating a fact. And in that quiet, surreal moment, Daniel realized the affair wasn't what broke their marriage. The affair was just a symptom. The marriage had already ended in her mind, long before she ever spoke the words out loud. This story is devastating, but it's not unique. What happened to Daniel and Anna follows a predictable, if tragic, psychological pattern. And understanding that pattern is the key to seeing it and maybe even protecting yourself from it. So let's look at what was really going on beneath the surface of this picture-perfect life. This phenomenon is often called a psychological collision, and it typically hits people, both men and women, somewhere between 35 and 45. It's that moment when a person's entire identity, often built for decades on their youth and their physical appearance, crashes head-on with the undeniable reality of aging. The external validation they've unconsciously relied on their whole lives starts to dry up, and for some, the result is a deep internal panic, a desperate scramble to prove to themselves and to the world that they've still got it. And there's some powerful brain chemistry at play here that makes this crisis so dangerous. Think of it like this. The thrill of a new affair is a firework. It's a massive, intense, unpredictable spike of dopamine. It's bright, it's loud, it demands all of your attention. But the deep, stable love of a long-term partner is more like a steady, warm fire in the hearth. It's reliable, it provides life-sustaining warmth, but it doesn't explode. For a person in the middle of an identity crisis, it becomes dangerously easy to mistake the bright, loud explosion of the firework for something more real than the quiet, constant warmth of the fire. They aren't falling in love, they're chasing a chemical high to escape an internal low. So how does a person justify this level of destruction to their family, to their friends, and most importantly, to themselves? How do they sleep at night? Well, their brain performs an incredible and frankly terrifying trick called revisionist memory. It's a powerful defense mechanism that literally rewrites the past to make their current actions feel not just acceptable, but necessary. Suddenly, 17 years of shared laughter and good memories are edited into a bleak story of oppression. His stability becomes evidence of his control. Her sacrifices become proof that she was trapped. This psychological editing allows them to see themselves not as the villain, but as the brave hero, finally escaping their prison. The most important thing to understand in all of this is that it rarely happens overnight. There are almost always warning signs, a trail of breadcrumbs leading to the eventual collapse. Recognizing the pattern is your only real defense against being completely blindsided. So let's look at the specific red flags from this story that you need to be aware of. Now, any one of these on its own might mean nothing, but when you see them appearing together, that's when a dangerous pattern emerges. A sudden obsession with being seen, not by you, but by the world. A new circle of friends, often people who are bitter or chaotic in their own lives, who validate the discontent. Constant talk about feeling invisible or unappreciated, no matter what you do. A sudden explosion of selfies and validation seeking online. And maybe the biggest red flag of all, they start rewriting your shared history. Good memories turn bad. Happy years are reframed as miserable ones. This isn't reflection, it's justification. And we have to be honest about the cultural winds that can fan these flames. Modern ideas about radical self-empowerment can, in some cases, be twisted to justify incredibly selfish and destructive behavior. Popular slogans like "live your truth," when they're used without any wisdom or responsibility, can become a permission slip to blow up your life and the lives of those who love you. And social media is often right there to cheer it on, with a chorus of "you do you" that validates the decision to leave, without a single critical thought for the consequences. All of this leads to a very sobering but ultimately powerful takeaway. You can't control another person's internal crisis. You can't fix their fear of aging or their collapsing sense of self. But you can become aware of the patterns. And in this context, awareness really is the most effective form of protection. After the dust settled and the anger started to fade, Daniel eventually came to a powerful realization that moved him beyond the betrayal. He understood her actions were never really about him, or even about the other man. She was running from something inside herself, her own fear of fading away, of becoming irrelevant. And in her panicked sprint to escape that fear, she burned down something beautiful and real. And that is the heartbreaking truth at the center of the story. The catastrophic failure wasn't in the marriage. Daniel could have been the perfect husband by every measure, and it likely wouldn't have mattered. The root problem wasn't the relationship, it was an internal identity crisis raging inside Anna. And that is a fire that no partner, no matter how loving or devoted, can put out for you. So we're left with this challenging question. What happens when a person's private internal fear of fading away becomes stronger than their love for the real, tangible life they've spent years building? The core message here is that the most dangerous threats to our long-term relationships often come from within a person, not from between them. It's a sobering reminder that we can't save someone from themselves. Have you ever seen this pattern play out in your own life or in someone you know? Share your thoughts in the comments below. There's a lot we can learn from each other. And if you found this valuable, please subscribe and share it with someone who might need to see it. Thanks for watching.